Welcome to Legacy Lounge, the podcast where you'll discover how to lead with purpose and build a legacy that matters. So if you're ready to step into your full potential, show up authentically for yourself and others, and create a lasting impact on the world, you're in the right place. Let's begin. All right, leaders, we are going to talk about the real truth about influence, impact, and the practical tools that make it all work. You know what I find fascinating? Most leaders look for influence in all the wrong places. They focus on strategies, tactics, fancy frameworks. But after 11 years as a senior director, I discovered something pretty powerful. Real impact starts with you. And today, I'm not just going to tell you about why that happens. I want to give you exact tools to make that happen. And even if you are an influential leader, if you apply these tools, it will do nothing but amplify the goodness that you're already doing. So we are going to break down the impact blueprint. This is my proven framework from creating lasting influence, both in corporate retail, but also through my coaching business with my clients who are currently crushing it. Plus, the actual tools. Most of my successful leaders in the past use them to also transform their teams. I want to take you back to a moment or scenario that comes to my mind when I was preparing for this discussion today. I was sitting in my office surrounded by performance metrics, all of our team cards, they're week over week over week, quarter over quarter performance. And I kept these taped up on the board in my wall, and I would just stare at them. And in this particular day, for whatever reason, it hit me. The leaders who were creating the biggest impact on their operational performance oftentimes were not the ones who had some fancy strategy behind it. They were the ones who started with personal alignment. So I want to break down this impact blueprint. We're going to start the discussion around personal power and it being the foundation of your leadership. What it means to have a grip of your own personal power means you feel crystal clear when it comes to clarifying what your personal values are. Having strong personal power means that you can define a vision that is yours. You can feel the passion behind it when you describe it. You can see your personal engagement come out and be portrayed on your face when you are talking about it. It just lights you up. Your personal power can amplify when you have alignment with your actions. And most importantly, when you can trust your own authentic voice. For those of you that hear me say personal power and you have no idea where to start, I am going to begin that conversation today. And so as I ask the following questions, I challenge you to have some time to reflect on these. Think about it. What's the first thing that pops into your mind? And then when you think about it a little bit more, what else starts to surface? So with this framework, I typically start with 4 questions that I will ask. The first one is, what lights you up? I want you to think about when you are just flowing through your day. You're energetic. There's no additional brain power. It doesn't require you to hype yourself up before you go do it or to take some deep breaths because you know it's going to be super strenuous. What just innately lights you up? The next question, what are your natural gifts? Your innate talents? The third question, where is the need that you can fill? Now, this one gets really important because you can think about it in your market. You can think about it on your team. You can think about it in your household. But where is there a need that you could fill? The last question around personal power, I like to ask, what is your inner voice saying? Now, before you roll your eyes and you say, wow, okay, this just took a turn. Now it's too woo-woo for me. I'm out of here. Hang with me. What is your inner voice telling you? Because that is your truth. That is you at your most peak, energetic, authentic, in flow state self. And that is where your personal power stems from. Now, let me give you 3 concrete tools that can help transform personal power coming to life through a leadership culture. We're going to start with the Power Hour protocol. I've talked about having a power hour at the beginning of your shift where you are uninterrupted, no meetings, no calls, no distractions to catch up. That is just straight up you with you time to work and to knock out projects that you've got done, to handle things that might still be lingering that you just got to put a bow on top of. This one is a little bit different. So the Power Hour protocol is broken down into 4 15-minute intervals. The first 15 minutes is your personal alignment check-in. The second 15 minutes is a team pulse review. The third 15 minutes is action planning. And the last 15 minutes is your impact evaluation, almost like a story moment, if you will. So every Monday morning, my leaders would run a form of this protocol in their buildings. One leader went from struggling with team engagement to having some of the highest performing department increases in just 90 days that we have ever seen. So I challenge you to save this episode, bookmark this spot, and try the Power Hour protocol just one day and see what impact you can make. The next we're going to talk about today in regards to your personal power is the impact matrix. Now, I have shared an episode before about the Eisenhower matrix. The impact matrix is a little bit different, but updated verbiage on the same type of format. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, please reach out to me. I have multiple resources around this. They are fillable for you. But as you listen along, I hope I can paint this picture in your mind. So as I describe the simple grid of the impact matrix, I want you to picture what the Eisenhower matrix looks like in your mind. 4 blocks, 2 axes, and we're going to measure if it's high impact and easy, if it's high impact and hard, if it's low impact and easy, or low impact and hard. Don't worry, I'm going to give you some real life examples. I had a leader that was really struggling getting their team to buy in. And so after numerous conversations of trying different things, we drew up a impact matrix and realized that she by mistake, was spending 80% almost of her energy in a day on low impact activities. So 1 month after, we did a complete realignment of how she spends her time, what she's checking in on, what she delegates, and how she follows up, when her time is scheduled on her calendar. But just on this simple assessment, it allowed us to identify where her efforts are going and why that disengaged team was responding the way they were, which made sense because almost 80% of her time was on low impact when it comes to protecting her personal power and leaning into team growth, team development, influence, and connection. Another tool I'm going to share with you today is the 3-3-3 method. And I use this in a lot of different fashions, but in the professional space, I would challenge you to embrace the 3-3-3 method, which is to connect with 3 team members, identify 3 growth opportunities for those team members, and create 3 moments of impact. That tells your success story. Don't worry, I've got one more example to share. One of my managers used this method, and we kept a note on our 90-day agenda check-in, one-on-one, me and my direct report, specifically tied to the 3-3-3 exercise and how it was implemented, how they tracked improvement or lack thereof, and what they learned through trying this experiment. And the results were awesome. Team engagement went up almost 40%. That is massive when you think about the industry of corporate retail, Fortune 30 especially, and we've got burnt out leaders leading burnt out teams. Taking that 3-3-3 approach allowed individual connection to grow, so much so the total store engagement improved by 40%. The performance metrics themselves in almost every category, from the back room to experience on the sales floor to how their in-stocks presented and how the guest was giving them credit for it on their surveys, improved across the board. Last but not least, 2 of their team members were slated on our internal pipeline plans for a planned promotion within the next quarter. Those people, those 2 names that became a part of our future talent pipeline planning, were not even on the radar before we had attempted this approach of 3-3-3. It was through those one-on-one discussions that my direct report was able to identify, wow, these people are a lot stronger than I assessed that they were. And their skill set is qualified to meet the expectation of a new role, on top of their personal desire to grow within the company. And we were able to discuss relocatability options, which opened up the entire platform for us to be able to use those team members as a dynamic player if we were to have unforeseen turnover and or openings. The last thing that came out of that was it created almost like a waiting list of people who wanted to maneuver their way through different departments in the store just by simply asking the right questions. So here's some quick tips. I am just going to throw out some rapid fire implementation tips that you could use as soon as tomorrow if you want. Start meetings with a values alignment. End conversations with an impact checkpoint. Start to consider power pauses for yourself before you respond or react to something that is said. Both are important. Both are also incredibly hard to tap into from a self-awareness standpoint. Create ownership moments. Do it daily and then celebrate them when they happen. Last but not least, celebrate aligned actions weekly. When you as a leader ask for something, the most important thing that you do next is remember to come back and follow up to say, thank you. Thank you for doing that. Great job with this. Or, hey, I noticed we're a little behind. How can I help support get you back on track? You might learn that there's another problem existing that we didn't even know about beforehand. So speaking of the power pauses, this one has taken me a very, very long time to personally get comfortable with. But I actually learned this from a leader of mine. And I noticed in every time we would have a discussion, before they responded, they would physically take a half a step to the side and rebalance their footing. They would take a deep breath and make eye contact with me before responding. And at first I thought, okay, they don't know how to answer. Maybe I'm intimidating. Did I just say something weird that I didn't even hear myself say? But what I came to find out when I asked, hey, I noticed this when I ask you questions. Is it something that I'm saying? Is it a certain way that I'm approaching you that makes you uncomfortable? Because if so, I need to know and want to know. And the coolest conversation unfolded from that. And he shared that a previous leader constantly told him he needed to pause before he responded. He needed to think through what he was going to say before he just started speaking. And this leader took that feedback to heart. And this was his way of physically shifting his body, allowing himself to have a minute to reground and really think through what he was going to say in that response. I respected that honesty. I respected that transparency. And I also complimented him for sharing it. And I said, your peers are going to thank you for sharing this one with me because I'm really going to work on this. And what I noticed is in his building specifically, he had gone into a pretty rough situation. From a safety security standpoint, the store was in a pretty rough area. Turnover was really high. The store operationally was just a disaster. But when we started to dig into the team aspect of things, just from this store director's first year of running that building and fixing some things and getting us on process, we noticed a massive decrease in the overall conflict and issues that were surfacing from that building. As I would walk around and pulse check the team, I learned how much trust was seen and felt throughout every team, every department. Everybody knew their role and they knew why it mattered in the bigger picture of the total process. The overall decision quality was so good. And his overall influence, not only in the building, but throughout the district, just skyrocketed because the results that were getting produced and the connection that you felt when you were talking to the team was undeniable that something incredible is going on in that building. So I've given you a lot of information, a lot of tips in this episode, and you can save it so you're not overwhelmed to come back to it in bite-sized chunks. But I am going to break this down for you to have a goal each day in your next week. So on Mondays, I challenge you to define your impact matrix. Define what it looks like. Decide the actions that you take and how you spend your time. Where do they fall? On Tuesday, I challenge you to start the 3-3-3 method. Wednesday, I challenge you to run your first power hour. Thursday, I challenge you to create ownership moments. And Friday, just straight up celebrate aligned actions. If you want to take this a step further and you're not driving or anywhere stationary where it is safe for you to take notes on your phone or maybe write it down in a journal or notebook or however you keep track of things, I encourage you to create a note titled Impact. Track your aligned actions, note influential moments, whether it's you influencing someone or days after you observe the behavior that is positive from a conversation you had previously that week. Record the transformations that you see in your team because that is your legacy in the making and you deserve to document it. Your legacy is not just about dreaming and hoping for the best. It is about the impact that you make. And that lasting impact really happens at its best when the influence of why teams move for you, why teams move alongside you, and why teams move with you. It's because of the impact that you make. It's about creating a ripple effect that will continue long after you have moved on to a new assignment, to a new location, to a new company, to a new dream. Any of that, it's what you leave behind. And it's what you leave behind through your impact on the people that you are leading current day. When I was building, high performance retail teams, we started with some crucial and very important personal accountability. And it was not the punitive kind, not the micromanagement kind. It was real empowered ownership. The results were unbelievable. And it's because of the impact previously that was being made did not leave a great reputation. I knew I was walking into something that was a turnaround situation. We were going to have to elevate and amplify a lot of things, from team to process to deliverables, and it needed to have consistency and it needed to happen fast. But when we broke down these conversations one-on-one and got real about ownership, got real about empowerment, and how I wanted to support my leaders in what they achieved, the results that they delivered were not only that they got consistent, they owned their growth. We produced more promotions than the district had in its history, which is unbelievable to me. But at the same time, we were not just sharing talent within our own district. We were pumping it out to supply sister districts with talent, sending people to different states, whether it was a promotion or a lateral move, because of the opportunity that would come out of it later. That, to me, created sustainable success. Even on LinkedIn today, I still get notifications of team members that became team leaders, that became executives, that became store directors. And there is nothing more that gets me excited than to see somebody that at one point in time was on my team, that we got to know and that we filtered growth and development around with intention, with impact. And that has led to their continued growth, even though I am no longer in that same role I was in. It is so fun to watch. So here's my call to action. This week, I challenge you to just maybe pick one tool that we covered today, because it was a lot. I'm thinking about it now, and this episode was a lot of juicy content. But save it and come back to it. Pick one tool we covered today and commit to it. Commit for 1 week. Commit for 2 weeks. Commit for 30 days. But commit and go all in and track your progress, because the impact of what you make is going to leave a lasting part in the team members that you invest in. I want you to share your impact with me. Share it on Instagram. You can find me at brenna.rw. My handle is in the show notes. Or on LinkedIn, or you can email me. But I want to see how you are creating your own lasting legacy. Your legacy isn't just built on dreams. It is built on aligned action and authentic influence. Until next time, keep leading with purpose. That's it for this episode of Legacy Lounge, a podcast dedicated to empowering you to lead with purpose. Remember, leadership begins with you. When you're connected to your values, strengths, and authentic self, you show up powerfully for your team, businesses, and everyone you lead. To authentically lead others, you must first lead yourself. I challenge you to consider, how are you investing in your personal growth to create a legacy that you envision? Thank you for joining me in the Legacy Lounge. If this episode sparked any thoughts or inspired action, I'd love to hear from you. I'm your host, Brenna Rollins-Williams. Connect with me on LinkedIn or other socials, and let's continue the conversation. Remember, your legacy is built one intentional step at a time.